Final Shape was probably the most anticipated expansion in the Destiny franchise's history to date, the culmination of a 10-year saga, the defeat of our universe's equivalent to Thanos. Everything seemed to be riding on this expansion. Even with player numbers so low, with Into the Light, Pantheon, and a prologue cutscene of sorts building hype, player sentiment was seemingly positive in the weeks and days leading up to June 4th. If Bungie is good at anything, however, it's building hype. Bungie knows how to market a product, even if the product is of poor quality. This is incredibly apparent with the Lightfall expansion that came out last year. So, did the Final Shape live up to the hype? Yeah, it did. Without a shadow of a doubt, this was my favorite Destiny campaign. The cutscene direction is incredibly creative, the soundtrack is obviously on fire, and it provides a near-perfect conclusion to the last 10 years of Destiny. I think my highest piece of praise, however, is the character writing. When compiling my thoughts for this video, it was so difficult to choose a favorite character. While Marisov wasn't a major character in this story, her voice actor gave a spectacular performance in the first mission. Hearing such a resilient and fearless leader freaking out was a great tool for establishing the tone of the story. Cade 6 was also used incredibly well. I was a bit nervous about his presence after how poorly Nimbus was handled, but I found him to be a really resounding character. Holding the peace between Zavala and Ikora was a great role for him, and I feel that any comedic lines from him were used at really tasteful moments. After mulling it over though, there's no doubt in my mind that Zavala was the most interesting character I got to follow. Historically, Zavala hasn't had that much to do in the story, which is weird for how important of a character he is. So seeing him in the spotlight this time around was refreshing. Not only that, but seeing him take on a darker, more pessimistic role was exciting. Similar to Mara, Zavala has always stood as this resilient figure who can't be shaken. I think about the speech he gives at the beginning of Beyond Light to the people of the city, just to reinforce this idea. I'm glad we got to see something new done with this character to line up with the grim stakes at hand. And of course, while Keith David's performance did take a bit of getting used to, he really did a good job of it. Obviously, there's no replacing Lance Reddick, but I really do think David brought some life to the character. Gameplay-wise, things are also mostly good. The Pale Heart of the Traveler quickly became one of my favorite destinations. I love how odd and unique it is, and how the entire destination harkens back to our 10-year journey. It's quite literally unlike anything we've ever seen in a location before. Overthrow is fun, but I really don't have any strong thoughts on it besides that. It is just a public event after all. Pathfinder is a fun reward system within the Pale Heart, but I can't say I love it as a replacement for ritual bounties. The good thing about bounties, never thought I would say that, was that you could choose exactly what you want to do. Want to play exclusively Crucible for your Bright Dust? You can do that. Just want to do strikes for your Powerful? You can do that. With Pathfinder, if you get locked behind a bad path, you could be forced into playing something you don't want to get your rewards. I wish there was just a little more freedom of choice when it came to Pathfinder. It would be nice if you could choose a type of Pathfinder to follow after each reset, with objectives from one of the core playlists, as well as objectives that could be done in all three. It's also worth mentioning that Bungie has been making improvements to Pathfinder in response to criticisms similar to mine, so I don't want to make it seem like I'm disregarding any of that. Dual Destiny also came out with the Final Shape, and has quickly become my favorite exotic mission out of all of them. I don't particularly care if the mission can't be soloed, I think it makes it more fun, but I can somewhat understand the frustration that solo players have in that fact. If you're a solo player, I'd strongly recommend checking out LFG or finding someone on Twitch doing carries of Dual Destiny. It's an incredibly fun mission, and it would be a shame to miss out on it just for being solo. While I prefer a fun experience over good loot, we should still talk about the new weapons and armor, which are pretty good for the most part. The support frame auto rifle was probably my favorite thing throughout the campaign, but it's also hard to ignore the call. I also got a lot of enjoyment from the new shotgun in PvP, as I've been looking for a kinetic slot precision frame for a while now. As for exotics, while most of the armor didn't really shine in any way, the same cannot be said for the exotic class items, as well as the exotic weapons. I can't believe that Still Hunt made it past testing, and I'm sure it's going to be nerfed even more than it already has at some point. Ergo Sum also fills a pretty unique niche in the realm of randomly rolled exotics. I can see this becoming craftable at some point, but in the meantime, it's been fun to chase down rolls. If I had to rank it, the Final Shape probably comes out as a 9 out of 10 for me, but what about Echoes? After the campaign wrapped up, our first episode of the game began to lackluster review, and for good reason. On launch, Echoes didn't really hook me in. The story felt needlessly slow, especially with acts being separated weeks from one another. I also feel that Echoes really failed to innovate gameplay-wise. Enigma Protocol and Echoes Battlegrounds don't feel as refreshing as I would like, especially after coming off a year that included activities like the Coil and Onslaught and Deep Dives. I do think the story has gotten better as it progressed, however, and I feel like one-shot stories like this are good for new players. That being said, I just can't deny that the story and the game are delivered poorly. I'm pretty sure most everyone is tired of the drip feed model at this point, and episodes just dial it to 11 in this format. Either way, I am excited to see how Bungie uses this feedback for future releases.